Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to a What's Next video. Okay folks, so as you know, the Eduard BF109 G2 is complete and it's sitting on the shelf over there. And now we're into what is going to be the next build video. So the wife has actually picked this one. She pointed to it in the stash and says, oh, build that one next, because she is a big fan of the television series. So what is next? And it is the Colonial Viper Mark II. So the box, made by Rebel, states what it is. Colonial Viper Mark II from Battlestar Galactica, and the kit number is 04988. So the box, nice bit of frontal box armour. Armour? Did I just say armour? I think it's time to build a tank. No. Nice front box art. So on the side, some more box art showing you the rear engines, a little bit of the cockpit and some frontal detail there, a little bit of information about the kit itself, how many parts, etc., and a colour call out. This side of the box is again just the same artwork as on the front. This side again a little bit more detail about the kit, what it actually is. Again this side the same box art, and on the back we have pictures of two of the other kits that they do, which is the actual Battlestar Galactica itself and the Colonial Viper Mark VII. Now there's two more kits that go with this. There is the Raptor, which I think is a reasonably new release, and of course the Cylon Raider. I have the Cylon Raider in the stash, so hopefully we'll build that soon. We can show them side by side. And that is it for the box. So let's take a look at some plastic. Okay folks, so there are 8 sprues in the kit, and for the most part they look okay. So let's take a quick look at each one. Okay, so the first sprue is the actual pilot himself. Now looking at this sprue, there's quite a bit of flash around the arms. For some reason we've got 3 arms, which I think is very strange. We've got one there, and one on the end. So very unusual. We've got 2 halves, 2 frontal plates we can use for the body. Ah look, both male and female. So we have a female pilot if we so choose. And then we've got the main body. So detail is, it's not too bad, it's not great, there's not a huge amount of detail in there, but there's enough. So that is the first sprue. Okay, the next sprue is looking like landing gear, the 2 guns, and these possibly look like seat parts or parts of the body bit. We also have the control stick and some other bits and pieces in there. Again, detail not massive, but there is some there, so it would be nice for putting the washes in and making the details stand out a little bit. So that is sprue number 2. Okay, sprue number 3. We are now looking as though we have the main cockpit. This looks like the front of the nose. We have the top tail wing. So we've got 2 of the engine things here that show on the side of the model itself. And then we have some more panels and bits and pieces around here. Again, detail is simple but effective. These look quite nice. There's quite a bit of detail in the cockpit, in the seat. There's a little bit around the edges for the dials and stuff. And of course these panels, there's not really anything to them, just panels. So and we've got 2 very loose parts there on the bottom that we need to make sure we don't break off, which we just did. So I will need to put that somewhere safe because I'm not sure what it is. So, sprue number 3. Okay, sprue number 4. This is the main engine segment, and it looks like the main cowl for the engine himself. Now this sprue is literally falling to pieces. It's just, yeah, not much to it. So some quite good detail on this engine section in the back here, actually in the engines themselves and around the edges, so that should look nice once painted up. And then the covers themselves have some detail inside there. Other than that, very plain and boring. So sprue number 4. Okay, sprue number 5. Not much to this sprue. It is literally just the bottom of the ship itself. And again, not a huge amount of detail on here. We've got the Universal Network Television logo in there, so that will need to be sanded out. Not much detail on there at all. A little bit of flash at the back, but nothing major. So, sprue number 5. Okay, sprue number 6. These look like the main engine covers, and there's only 2 pieces on this sprue. Not a huge amount of detail again, very plain around the most part of the plastic, but a little bit of engine showing through in the centre there, which looks okay. And again, once painted, should look pretty good. So, sprue 6. Okay, sprue number 7. This looks like the major wings on the side, and again, this just looks like some panel covering for the ship itself. Now, again, no detail in these wings whatsoever. There's a few little cutouts here and on the front here, and that is pretty much it. There's a very slight texture to it. It's not smooth plastic, so once we start adding some washes and things like that, we can hopefully show some detail. So, sprue number 7. And last but not least, sprue number 8. And again, not much detail around most part of the body. There's some nice detail inside the main body, just on the side here on both sides. So once painted and washes are applied, a little bit of colour, it should look quite nice. So that is sprue number 8. So, almost forgot, of course, we have the canopy, the clear part, which isn't quite bad. There's a tiny little bit of distortion in there, but not a huge amount. And of course, we also have in clear plastic the base. We have the main arm to hold it, and the base itself, which strikes me as a little bit odd because you can see there's a bit of a pattern in there, and it looks like the colonial symbol and some landmass, a little bit like the UN symbol, but it's perfectly smooth this side. For some unknown and very, very strange reason, they've put the pattern on the inside, which strikes me as a little bit odd. So what I might do is paint it on this side and then matte black it, but don't paint anything on this side, and see how it turns out. Should be interesting. We'll find out when we get to it. So that is all the plastic. Okay, so destructions. Typical destruction book. We have a few paragraphs about the Colonial Viper Mark II, and one side just looks like German, the other side is English. So I'll read you the first line so you can get a gist of what it is they're saying. So, the single-seat Viper Mark II is reputed to be the most famous space superiority fighter used by the colonial forces. And it goes on and on. It gives you a little bit of history of when it was, when they started to use it, and the sort of battles it's been in, and that kind of stuff, and a little bit of detail about how big it was, etc, etc. So, an interesting little read for a little bit of background about the Colonial Viper. So inside we have, the first page is a read before you start, so this will be a little bit of health and safety. You know, don't eat all the plastic because it's not very good for you, that kind of thing. And page 2 again is a little bit of description about some of the warning warning symbols that will be inside the book itself. So things like sharp knives, using decal solution, glue, paintbrushes, etc, etc. So next page is, this here is the colour call out of the recommended colours. I shall be ignoring this because I want to do something a little bit different than the standard colour scheme. We then get the sprue and parts call out, and it looks like we'll be using every single part, which is unusual for a kit. And then we are into the instructions themselves, and they follow a very similar format to any model kit. Build up the main body, build up the landing gear, build up the cockpit, and assemble the side panels on the cockpit. Onto the next page, and then pilot into the cockpit. Assemble the wing sections, assemble the two halves with the cockpit and all other pieces inside. So it's going to be very much like a plane build. We shall do the cockpit, get it all painted, bring the two parts together, and then we are on to installing landing gear, the engine covers, some of the engines themselves, wing assembly, getting the wings onto the unit itself, and then on to the last assembly instructions, which are putting in some of the engine sections, the top wing, the main engines, and then mounting onto the base. So we are now on to the last part of the book, which is decal placement. So looking at this here, it only shows you the Starbuck layout. So you have the Starbuck name underneath the cockpit window itself and Starbuck's ID code. The decal placement for both schemes are exactly the same. So all you will be changing is the Starbuck for Apollo and the number for Apollo. So you have the top and of course the bottom. So how are the decals? Let's look at those next. Okay, so there we have the decal sheet, and as I said, we have the Apollo decals this side, the Starbuck decals this side. So I don't know which ones to use. I'm not going to be, like I say, I want to do something a little bit different than the white and red. Now I looked at the decals and I was a little bit worried because we had this logo inside the red stripe, and I thought that would be quite difficult. Thankfully they have these logos individual here. So I need to decide which colour schemes I'm going to use. Obviously the logo itself is going to stay yellow. So that is the decal sheet. They are printed in Italy, but I think they're not anything special, they're just made by Revell. So that is the decal sheet. So folks, that is what is next in the build series. So I am going to wrap it up here. Don't forget, we now have a Making Models group page. I shall put the link in the description. It would be lovely if you could come along, sign up, join in the discussion. I'm hoping the group is going to be about teaching others hints, tips and things like that on some of the more unusual bits and pieces of this hobby. One more thing, for those of you who don't know, I am also building on Instagram as a picture only build the Monogram 1/48 scale Catalina. Again, this is Instagram only, so if you want to see how the progress of this is, head on over to Instagram. Again, the link is in the description. I'll give you a quick teaser of where we are at. We are currently painting the interior sections of the model, and so far so good. It's quite an enjoyable build, so I hope to see you over on Instagram. And that is that, folks. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Be good, be safe, and as always, keep making models. Ta-ta.